Got you, homie.
Alright, now that those guys are out of the way, welcome to another Draw Cartoons tutorial. Chapter 2, Season 2 is a thing now, which is actually kind of Season 12, but one day we're all going to lose count and it's all going to go to pot. And honestly, what does it even matter? Hit the like button if you've seen the top secret launch trailer and thought it was pretty hilarious. I mean, check this out. That's just downright cold-hearted. She just leaves them for dead. But guys, the biggest thing to come from this trailer is this guy. Not him. I mean, Deadpool is awesome and stuff, and that's really exciting, and I'll get into that in another video. But we have this guy, Agent Peely, as rich in potassium as he is slick. And we're going to draw him today. Let's do it. So for most of our drawings, we'd usually start with a circle for the head, but that's actually not going to apply to this guy because he doesn't have a circular head. So where on earth do we start here? Well, I think a good way to begin this drawing is to just draw a small circle to denote the very, very top of our character, and we're just going to basically work down from there. Let me just hide that preview just a bit more so you can see what I'm doing. So a bit of a circle here, and then we're going to draw a line that curves slightly to the right as it comes down, and gets to about just below halfway down your page, if you want your entire drawing to take up the page, but about half the length of the character. When you get to about here, you want to draw a line that kind of cuts across those lines, that initial line, to show where the hips are, and from there we can start building down the legs. So from each side of this, we want to just guide a line that goes down, curves a little bit at the front. Can you see that very, very subtle curve? Just to show where the knee is. It can help if you draw a small dot there too, just to kind of remind you where the knee is going to go. And at the very bottom here, we're going to draw a little wedge, just kind of sitting there to show where the foot is. And now for the other leg, again, we're just going to kind of draw a line down, draw a circle, more or less level with this one, to show us where the knee is, carry on down, and then we're going to, again, draw another wedge. This time it's kind of more of a trapezium kind of shape going on there. So right now we're just kind of building up the basic shapes of our character, and then we'll add all the kind of meat to the bones, so to speak, or rather fruit to the bones, once we've planned out all the shapes. So let's draw the actual kind of silhouette of our character now. So I'm going to come right out here and bring it back into that hip. Again, I'm going to start here, going to go low, but then I'm going to swing it out as I approach the middle of our character and wrap it back to that waist. And we end up with this very, very convincing banana shape here. It's a little bit bulged out at this level here, and this level up here, it's very narrow and quite narrow at the hips as well. So I'm going to quickly just kind of go over these shapes again just to kind of show you what's going on with a slightly thicker pencil here, just to kind of make it a little bit more clear. So we've got this curve outwards at the sides, and I'm going to keep that line in the middle because it acts as a pretty good kind of guideline for the overall shape of the body. We've got this line across here for the hips, and then on either side of those hips, of course, we've got a couple of very skinny looking legs at the moment, and those are going to stay pretty skinny because this is a very top heavy character. Now, what about the arms? Well, the arms don't come too far out from the body. As a matter of fact, you can actually draw a diagonal line out here and then back in. Just kind of curve it into the shape of that body there. And again, on the other side, don't bring these angles too far out. You want to keep them fairly close to the body because this character's torso is very, very thick because he is, after all, literally a banana with arms. So now that we've got the shoulders in place and kind of the overall silhouette of our character in place, apart from the legs, but we'll come to those, I'd like to actually tackle the arms first because the arms are at the front of the body, and if we draw those first, we don't have to worry about things sitting underneath it, so we can just kind of jump right in with those. Plus, the arms are admittedly the hard part, so if we get that out of the way, we've only got the easy stuff to worry about. Let's get rid of all that. Okay, so let's get going. I would like to start with this arm here, so I'm going to draw a small circle that kind of sits on this angle here to show us where the shoulder is. And then coming down from the center of the circle, I'm going to draw a line to about here. This is halfway between this bit here and this waist. And this is where the elbow is going to be. So again, if you want, you can draw a little circle there to show us that that is indeed an elbow. And this line needs to come right across here because the pose we're going for, as you can tell in the preview underneath, this is him kind of adjusting his watch or his cuff, which is an animation he has in the game if you've seen the videos already. So at the end of this, we can just draw a small blob for now, just kind of show that there's going to be a hand there, and we can draw a blob above that to show that there's another hand sitting above it, because that's the hand that's wearing the cuff that he's adjusting with this hand, if that makes sense. So then we might as well jump right in and add some thickness to this arm. So coming down from this circle above, just kind of draw either side of the guideline that we drew for the middle of the arm, and you end up with this nice kind of very convincing arm shape. Keep it narrow at the wrist. You can see I've tucked my lines in just a tiny bit as I've approached the wrist, and we can kind of close it off and draw in that sleeve as well. It's a little rectangle on the end there. Now I think before we go any further with this hand, it's actually better to draw this hand first because it's sitting just slightly above the other one. So to do that, if I draw a line across here, I can basically draw a curve showing where the knuckles are, and then I can draw the fingers coming from this shape here. So 1, 2, and these go smaller as we go down, 3 and 4. And then a small thumb just kind of sticking out there. And we get this kind of gently closed fist that's facing towards the body. It's not really doing anything. The hand is just kind of floating there for this one to sort out the cuff on that hand. We can just kind of solidify this line here to show the back of the hand. Now that that's in place, we can start drawing this hand. This is quite tricky, but if we come away from this cuff here and tuck that thumb in so it looks like it's dipping into the cuff of this one here, you can just kind of hide that line and not really worry too much about drawing the rest of that thumb. So we can basically come away from this now and then just draw 4 fingers just kind of hanging out, just kind of relaxed, have them placed next to each other, and then bring it into the wrist. Now this is definitely the most challenging part of the drawing. We've never really drawn 2 hands interacting like this before, but if you do follow through with this tutorial, you'll pick it up, especially if you do it a couple of times. So make sure you watch the whole video all the way through to make sure you pick that up. So I'm just adding a cuff here underneath this wrist, and now we're going to do that foreshortening thing I've mentioned in previous videos. And all that means, it's quite a simple thing really, it's when an arm or another object is coming towards you and it looks really not very wide or not very long, but that's because it's kind of pointing in our direction. So if you were to look at a friend's arm as they're pointing their arm towards you, yeah, their arm's going to basically look like that. And it's quite hard to draw, it's not going to come overnight, but with Draw Cartoons you'll get the hang of it sooner or later, I'm sure of it. So we're just going to kind of match that bicep up to that point in the shoulder there, and there we go, the arms, the sketch of the arms is pretty much done at this point, so you've done the hard bit. So the rest of it's pretty much the fun bit. So let's get adding in the rest of the silhouette and then we'll add in the shapes. So right now we just have some sticks for legs, that's easily sorted out. All we have to do is add a bit of thickness to them. So curve around for the thigh, add a small bubble out for the knee like this, and then curve it right in nice and slender until it meets the very top of that wedge that we're using for the foot. And now the back of the leg can be thick at the top, narrow at the knee, bring it out a little bit for the calf, and thin towards the ankle again, and we end up with this really convincing, pretty realistic looking leg shape, but I'm trying to get it as close to the skin as possible, so that's what we're going for today. And again on the other knee, pretty much kind of the same pattern here. It's thicker at the calves, but then it's really narrow at the actual knee itself and the ankles, and don't forget that it's also fairly thick at the very top of the legs where the legs meet their hips. So now we've got some legs in place. You can add a small cutoff here at the bottom for the bottoms of the trousers. And now we'll jump up and draw the face. Now the face is nice and basic on this character. If you want to have a proper guide of where to draw this, you can softly draw a line across this part of the banana here. And that means the face goes no higher than that line. Make sure that this line is pretty much the midway point between here and the shoulders. Pretty much. Mine's a little bit lower, but that's fine. It doesn't matter if you're a little bit from the middle because the face is actually fairly low down anyway on the actual character model. So now we'll draw in the eyes, and the eyes kind of look like sunglasses, like very much like secret agent sunglasses, appropriately so, but it's pretty much just the actual shape of his eyes because he can morph the shape of his eyes pretty dramatically. We'll give him a serious mouth, very small kind of closed mouth, kind of serious business sort of look going on there. And we might as well finalize this bit up here because right now we've just got a bit of a blob for the top of the banana and that doesn't look right. So we can change this into kind of like a soft square shape and then draw another one just kind of sitting underneath it, and we immediately get this sort of very stout looking shape of a square, kind of like a cube that's been chopped in half really. It's a very 3D kind of shape going on here. And that's the very top of the banana, and you can come down from the corner of this tip and just kind of draw a line that goes past the eye very gently because this is a very faint line on the character model to about here, and that's kind of the crease in the banana where the skin folds. And speaking of that, we can actually start drawing in the peel now. Now that we've got this line, we can draw a curve coming out like this, give it a flat edge like that, just like in the actual model in the game, and then curve it back in just like that. Nice and simple, just guide that line back into where we started just there. And then if you want a bit of added detail just in there, add a little bit of the white part of the banana skin inside, And if you want, you can also add the bit of peel on this side as well. And just drawing a little line on the inside to show the difference between the yellow bit and the white bit just there on the inside. So the face is done, so I think it's a good time to start drawing his very, very fancy suit, his blazer and his shirt and all that. So a good place to start is to draw a V shape that comes down just below the middle of the face. Well, not quite just below, it's fairly far below the middle of the face actually. And then comes back up over the shoulder over there. Now a bow tie, so we'll add a small blob at that V shape just there. And then either side of that, we're going to draw this sort of shape. There we go, a bit of a triangle on each side. Simple as, doesn't have to be anything too fancy. And if you want at this point, you can have a bit of fun adding the polka dot pattern on the bow tie if you want to at this stage. You might want to save that for when you're actually going over it with a pen though, or whatever it is you use to ink your work. And now we need to draw the actual blazer, because this is the very, very top. This V shape here, this is the top of the shirt. So we're going to add the blazer sitting on top of this. So I'm going to follow this line down a little bit, but as I get to about here, just past the shoulder, I'm going to bring a line that goes way down into the torso and disappears behind that first arm we drew, which is why we drew that arm first. It saved us having to worry about drawing parts of the blazer that we're not even going to see. And we can basically do the same with this side as well. This part of the blazer dips right down behind those arms, and we don't see anything more of it until it kind of converges here and forms a straight line down to the waist. And then we can add a couple of buttons to show that it's been fastened together. So, to help you picture it, this bit here that I'm colouring in now, this is his shirt. This is all light blue. And the bit that we just drew, this bit and this bit here, that's all the black part of the blazer if you're going to colour it in later. So let's finish off that blazer. It separates here, just above the waist, and forms very much in a typical kind of suit fashion, this bit here at the bottom where it separates just at the hem. So you can bring that out past the leg a little bit and guide it back up into the torso. And if you give it a bit of a curve, we can have a very slim waistline for our character, because he is pretty slim. It's a very slim fitting jacket that he's wearing. Appropriately so, he is a secret agent, and he doesn't want to be wearing anything particularly baggy, I suppose. Just adding in a couple of pockets here. It'll look extra nice if you have this one stick out a little bit, make it look a bit more real and 3D, so to speak. And then a final bit of detail down here we're missing is the shoes and the holster for his gun. I don't know who has a holster for a gun on their leg. Maybe that's just a secret agent thing that I'm not really aware of. But hey, we're going to add it now. So all I've added is a little loop around the shin here. And then at the bottom, I'm going to draw a small rectangular shape for the holster. And then we're going to build out the shape of the gun. So I'm going to add a small shape here, a little kind of a cube. And then a flatter shape here. And then a slightly longer one with a notch inside it. And that's basically the hammer of the gun. That's just kind of sitting there as the gun is facing downwards. The gun's not going to be facing this way like that. It's not going to be doing that. The gun is facing downwards, and it's convenient because then you can just kind of, you can picture him reaching down with a hand to grab that gun. So that's where the handle needs to be. And speaking of the handle, we just draw the handle in a kind of foreshortening way, facing away from the viewer. So it's facing over there. If I just draw a 3D arrow-ish, if I can call that 3D, I don't really know what that is. But it's facing away from the viewer. And that looks about right. It's quite a simple shape. It doesn't have to be anything too fancy. It is just a gun in a holster. So if you want, make sure it's nice and even. Guns do look a bit funny if you draw them uneven or bendy looking, so you definitely want to get those lines fairly straight, especially when you go over it with your inking or whatever you're using to ink your drawing. And now for the shoes. The shoes are a nice easy finish. So we'll follow this wedge shape down, and as we reach the end, we'll flick it up and bring it down like that. Okay, that flick up bit's quite important. Make sure you bring it up at the very, very end of the shoe and then down. And as we follow that wedge shape back to towards the heel, you want to bring it up a little bit in the middle and then carry on by bringing it back down to the floor. And that's the sole of the shoe. So speaking of the sole of the shoe, we need to make sure it actually looks like a sole by drawing another line along the very, very bottom of the shoe. Now this shoe is a little bit tougher because again we've got a bit more of that pesky foreshortening going on, but foreshortening is definitely something you want to get the hang of if you want to be drawing some kick-ass cartoons. So start with the ankle really, really slender like this, very thin, bring it out just a little bit on both sides, just a tiny bit, and then go straight down. And then from there, tiny lines there, we're going to go out again and then curve the front of the shoe carefully and bring it back in towards there, and we end up with this look that the shoe is facing directly towards us, which is exactly what we're going for here. And again, don't forget that sole. We want to make sure that there's a nice kind of division there between the top of the shoe and the rubber sole of the shoe. I'm assuming that agents also have rubber soles, but who knows what those guys are using. They get hold of all kinds of crazy high-tech stuff. And that's our sketch done. So make sure if you are going to go over this with a pen or you know, Photoshop, whatever you're using, just get rid of all these guidelines. You don't need this middle guideline anymore. You can get rid of that. This central guideline for the arm, we don't need that one. So you can erase them first if you want, if you've got a very steady hand. I do not, so I prefer to actually go over my drawing with a pen first and then erase the guidelines underneath. Just make sure you don't go over them. Oh, one more detail I've actually forgotten here. We actually need to add a little bit of blazer to this detail to this blazer. So there we go, just a little line there, because there's actually a lapel that kind of comes out here. And don't forget some buttons for this shirt. There we go, that was a close one. Why not add a bit of a collar for the shirt just underneath there? So tiny little details, very easy to miss, even for an experienced artist like myself. You might want to bring this arm out, this chest out a bit, into this arm a tiny bit there. And now we go, there we go. I promise we're actually finished with the sketch now. So grab your inking facility, whatever it is, software or an actual literal pen, and go over the lines you want to keep. I'm going to do that just now, so I'll see you in just a moment. Suave, sophisticated, and delicious? Agent Peel is a gem of a skin, and now you can draw him whenever you want. The less than 24-hour wait for a drawing tutorial on the greatest Fortnite skin ever made is finally over after all. Guys, thanks for watching the video, and don't forget that you can share your artwork anytime you want on the Draw Cartoons Discord channel. Link is in the description, and if you want to keep learning how to draw the fast and easy way, yes, there is such a thing, make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit that like button too, because it's a quick, free and easy way to support my channel. Until next time.